Hi everyone, I want to try to do a follow-up to my last video, and I want to explain how I came across this scripture in Matthew 5 verses 17 and 18, which obviously that seems to represent the current year. It seems to come up in verses 17 and 18 where it talks about the coming of the Lord, as well as in verse 27. That's something that I've talked about before, how there seems to be a pattern, and so I couldn't help but notice that this particular scripture came up in verses 17 and 18, and that's where Jesus said, "Think not that I have come to destroy the Torah and the prophets. I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled." So Jesus is talking about everything being fulfilled here in verses 17 and 18. Okay, and so what happened was I was trying to find this table that I've shown before that's from the Bible Code Wisdom website, which has been taken off the internet. And so now whenever I want to show a table, I can't just go to the website and easily pull it up. I have to go to a previous video to try to find the table so that I can show it in a video. So I was just trying to find a video that had this table, and I was actually thinking about putting together a video with some of the important tables that I've done, but it turned out that this entire video was important. I did this some time ago. I think it was still back in 2017. This is from the video file, and it was called, the title might be a little bit different on the video, but I named it in the video file 2017. So do you think the rapture will be this year? And I'll try to find the video and put a link in the description box, because the entire video confirms the 117 code. Of course, this is just one video. I've done so many videos that confirm the 117 code. Okay, so when I did this table, I wanted to confirm the meaning of the number 27, because I had come to understand the number 27 as representing the year 2017. So I wanted to see if I could confirm that in the Bible code. So I just put in the words 27, and as you can see, it came up with 117 matches. The very first line in this matrix reads 777 years. Of course, 2017 matches up with the Hebrew year 5777, which is the Jubilee year, and it's the year that I believe we're technically still in until the Jubilee is over, which I'm not sure when that will be exactly. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But if you go down to the bottom of the video, and I just have to play the video to get to it, but over here it's talking about the days of Lamech being 777 years. That's the first line of the matrix. And then the very last line that comes up in the matrix that's shown over here is where it says, "And Jehovah said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for that he is also flesh, yet shall his days be 120 years. And so it's been 120 years since creation. And incidentally, the Strong's number for Adam, which is the word man in the Hebrew, is Strong's number 120. And I can talk about that a little more later as well. Okay, so I wanted to find this table so that I could confirm and prove that the numbers 27 are synonymous with the numbers 117, the 117 code that God has placed in the Bible. And I've done other videos before that show how the covenant, the confirming of the covenant, is represented by the number 27, which again, I'll explain that a little more later. But I've done videos about that, but at the time I didn't even know there was a Davidic covenant. And so once again, with the Davidic covenant, you see that's confirmed in 2 Samuel 7, or it's mentioned in 2 Samuel 7 and 1 Chronicles 17. So you have 27 and 117. Okay, and I'll just show you another image of that, because in this one it has Davidic covenant, 2 Samuel 7 with the Roman numerals and 1 Chronicles 17. So again, you have 117 and 117. It's just written 2 different ways. Okay, so that's sort of like this table. You have 27, which is 117, and then it comes up with 117 matches. I believe God is confirming that 27 is synonymous with 17. Okay, and so like I said, I was just watching this video and I watched it all the way through, and like I said, all of it was important, but there were some other tables in this video that I had forgotten about. Okay, so I go on in this video to show the timeline that I had done on the prophecy in the book of Daniel, which is the 27th book of the Bible, and it's in verse 27 where the Messiah confirms the covenant. Of course, it's contributed to the Antichrist as well on a secondary level, but primarily it's the Messiah, the Prince, who confirms the covenant. It's talking about Jesus. That's what the entire prophecy is about, and that comes up in verse 27. And so I was showing the timeline over here that I had done, and I was showing how the first year, well, there's a total of 120 Jubilees, which equals this year, and what I was showing here is the first year of creation, which is negative 222. Okay, and as I've explained before, this is a year that Pastor Sandy Armstrong calculated at the time before I added this piece of the timeline. It started with the year 2277, which is Exodus, because I didn't think the year of creation was verifiable, so I never included that in the timeline. And then when I watched Pastor Sandy Armstrong's video, he had come up with the date. It was actually 3983. When you convert that to the Hebrew date, it comes out to negative 222. And so as you can see, when you fit that into the timeline, it makes a perfect 27. Okay, and I'll just show you the actual timeline so I can scroll down to the bottom so you can see there's 3 2s at the beginning, the year of creation, and then the current year, which I believe we're still at, which is the 5777th year, because the Hebrew years also start with year 1. Okay, and so I got confused initially when I put this date in because of the 2,000 years from BC to AD, and so I did the full 5,984 years, which is what it would be if there was no BC and AD, the difference of 4,000 years. There was 4,000 years before Christ and then 2 more thousand years. So instead of being 3984, if it was continuous, it would have been 5984. But that was actually a mistake. But it seems that God confirmed that because I did a table on it and I put year 5984. Of course, the number 3 comes up in the table as well. You can see 300 years over here, so the word 3 is in the table, but when I put it in that way, it was almost as if God was correcting me and telling me to use the year 83, which is what Pastor Sandy Armstrong had calculated, and not 84, because the actual year that matches up with negative 222 was from 3984 to 3983 BC. But the reason I had put in 4 is because all the other years that I had found several years ago, this was back in 2009 when I had come up with the Gregorian years and realized that something really important happened on these Jubilee years. And then when I converted it to the Hebrew dates, that's when I realized there was a pattern with the Jubilee year, which alternates from 77 to 27. Okay, so when I put in year 5984, it was as if God was confirming the year, but that I should use 83 instead of 84. And what's interesting is where this comes up. It comes up where it's talking about Methuselah living, let me keep going, to the age of 969 years, and that comes up in verse 27. And then I go on to show in this video that after Methuselah died, that was when the flood began. Okay, you can see that right here. It says Methuselah died the same year as the flood. So that's what I was trying to show. And this is significant because at the time, Pastor Sandy Armstrong, I'll just go back to the table, but at the time, Pastor Sandy Armstrong was talking about that in 2017, at the end of 2017, there was going to be a flood. That's what God had told him, that it was going to be a worldwide flood, but not like the flood of Noah. This was the flood that's talked about that comes at the end, when, like in the prophecy of Daniel, where it says the end will come with a flood. And so basically he's talking about the tribulation, but he was specifically told that it was going to be just like the days of Noah and the time of the flood. And so I think that's significant that when you put in the year 5984, which God corrected me, it's actually 5983 that God is going by. And I'll show you why that's important in a second. But that is where it comes up in the matrix, where it's talking about Methuselah dying just before the flood. Okay, and I'll show you why it's important to use 5983 instead of 5984, because this is today's date, October 18th, and the first Feast of Trumpets in the year 18, because that's the point that I wanted to make, is that I've talked about how everything goes full circle from the date of creation, that I believe it all started with the number 17. And so when you add the 5,983 years to that, you come up to exactly 6,000 years. If you put in 5984 instead of 5983, it comes out to 6,001 years. So it works perfectly if you use the 3 and you use 2018. Okay, and that's because there was no year 0, but if you actually add the numbers together, you see that it works when you put in the number 17. 5983 plus 17 equals 6,000 years, but because there was no year 0, it works out based on the Gregorian calendar that we have now. It works out better to use the 3, but in actuality you have to add it to 17, so it's just a glitch because of the fact that there's no year 0. I believe the year of creation was actually the year 17, that everything is hinged on the number 17. I've talked about that before, and this is still the 2017th year from year 1. Okay, and I'm going to get back to this scripture in a minute and try to explain my last video, but I just want to go on and show you what happened in this video. Since God seemed to be confirming the year 5983, I put that in a table, and then I also put in Jesus' birth. And when I did that, you can see all those words came up in ELS form. Jesus came up in the plain text. But when I did it that way, it came up in Ephesians 5, and then it's in verse 27, where it talks about God presenting the church to himself as a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that it should be holy without blemish. So this is the second coming of Christ that's talked about here, and the church being presented as the bride, and that comes up in verse 27. So again, you have the 27 code, and God is confirming. First, he's confirming the flood in the other scripture, and in this scripture, or in this table, he's confirming the second coming. So he's confirming it both ways. You see 3 coming up straight up and down. All these other numbers came up in the plain text when you put in the year 5983. Okay, and there's many other tables in this video. If you think this is all coincidence, that's fine. But As you can see, the number 17 keeps coming up, but I'll continue with the next video. Thanks for watching. God bless you.